Hey dividend investors, today I'm really not talking about dividends. What I'm talking about is marijuana companies on the stock market. And basically, is it a good investment in 2021? Well, these are my thoughts and some explanation as to why I think it is a good investment in 2021. Let's get down and let's check these stocks out. Okay, so this first stock I'm looking at is CGC, Canopy Growth Corporation. It is CGC on the American Stock Exchange, or it's weed, which is hilarious, on the Canadian Stock Exchange. From there, what we do see is essentially a great chart to really look at. Now, what you may see is a double top, and that is why it went down, and you're probably wondering, why are we looking at this company? Well, it's been on the stock market long enough for us to really analyze past performance to be able to see what happens into the future. And from here, Canopy Growth CGC also is fantastic to look at. Aurora is another one. But today we are looking at CGC. So what basically happened? Well, from here till here, we had in Canada a conservative government. Basically, the same idea as the Republicans in the United States. They dislike weed. So there was very little growth, very little thought on this company. As soon as there was word that a liberal government, Justin Trudeau, was going to be running and had a good chance to win, there was a little bit of a spike right there. The day and the following days after Justin Trudeau was elected, there was a massive spike. As we can see here, this stock went from only a couple of cents to $10, and that was huge. And that is what we are currently seeing essentially happening now on the stock market with Biden getting elected in the United States. As you know, the Americans, if you're American, you guys, if you're Canadian, the Americans, whatever, basically they are still illegal to have weed in most states, and federally it's still illegal to do anything with marijuana. And yet some of these states are currently legalizing, and Biden has even announced that he would be looking at marijuana as a possible legal entity in the United States, and that is huge. So this little spike here is, again, in my opinion, the same spike as what we've seen back before 2017, late 2016, when the word was announced that there was going to be legalization happening. After that happened, there was really no word on it, and that's essentially the pattern that we're seeing right now in the States. Biden said, hey, I'd like to do it, but there hasn't been any word on it just as of yet. So I still think that there's going to be a little bit of a trail off like we had from late 2016 all the way till late 2017. I think within a year there's going to be a starting of a little bit of a bump. This was when there was really the whole conversation of, will there be legalization? And they're going through the trials when it comes to the courts, the Canadian courts. And from there, it continued to go up, and then we got the word legal. That was the day it was legal. And as we can see, it went huge. Then we got a little bit of concerning news when it came to, well, you know what, maybe the weed market is just not as big as they originally thought, and the stock went down. And this is literally the chart that follows every single weed company on the market. It went huge, and then it dumped. And then we got a little bit of word saying, well, you know what, the black market, the illegal weed market, is drying up, and people are purchasing from the legal stores, the Ontario weed website. And then we got that second spike. And then it plummeted because then they figured out, well, we still don't, this is only a small market in Canada. And that's when companies started looking overseas, and we get a little bit of a spike. Well, hey, Aurora just sold a whole bunch to the Netherlands and blah, blah, blah. And there's all these little small spikes. Now the American market is on. That's the big market. To be honest, that is the market that everyone is looking for. Because when you really look at it, the Canadian market, yes, we have millions and millions of people, but Is it really that big of a market? No. Ontario is our biggest province when it comes to population, and we're only the size of California. So are we really that big of a market? No. Does that market valuation really equal to what the Canadians are going to buy? Not when it comes to CGC, not at $60 per share. That's just not going to happen. It doesn't make sense. But at $60 a share, if the entire United States is using their product, yeah, that valuation starts to make sense. So at $45 per share right now, once it gets legalized in the United States, I would really not be surprised if it went 3 or 4 times higher than it is currently sitting at today. But it's going to trail off again once there's a nice base of people using the product. And I'm not just talking about getting high. I'm talking about CBD oil that I use for my knees. Once there's a market solidified and there's actual grounds for a market there where people start saying, well, you know what, it's really not that bad. It's not really as bad as what we were told it was when we were kids. And it starts growing bigger and bigger. You're going to see the stocks continue to go up. I really look at this as the beer and alcohol stocks back 50 years ago, 60 years ago, whenever Prohibition was. I'm not that old. But anyways, this is my thoughts. I think that it's a good time to buy, but there might be a little bit of a pullback before the news comes out. Anyways, I hope that you've enjoyed. If you have, hit that like button, subscribe. Another way of really investing in the cannabis market is an ETF that I've already broken down called HMMJ. You can go find that on my channel as well. I'll see you guys again later.